Keenan, Ada, and John are still in complete shock at the fact that they are standing in front of the very children of Adam themselves. They then recap their journey to Seth so far and explain how Erg got wounded by Nephilim, who is now back on his feet but still in a bad shape. After hearing of their journey, Seth offers them the opportunity to stay with him until Erg has significantly recovered. All the while in Churupak City, Zos has arrived, continuing his search for the family. On the rooftop of Seth's house later that day, John takes a moment to properly thank Erg for his help on their journey thus far, also going into detail on the guilt she has been feeling for being the cause of Erg's injury stemming from a decision to marry Zos. While speaking to John's parents, Seth reveals to them the location of the Garden of Eden, stating that it's actually common knowledge to the locals, it's just that few dare to approach it. And Erg immediately refutes Seth's claim, stating that the Garden of Eden is a myth and another of Adam's old fairy tales. But before Seth can respond, a messenger barges into the room warning them that Zos was spotted in the city and is hunting for Erg and the family, urging them to flee immediately, with the fastest decision being to leave on horseback even though Erg is not in a good shape, but he insists that he'll be fine, only to immediately regret it afterwards. After some time, Zos shows up at Seth's house demanding that they hand over the girl, but Seth informs him they are no longer with him and have long gone. Obviously, he won't tell him where they went. But when Zos threatens to kill him for not cooperating, Seth tells him, "Stay your hand, for we worship the living God, you know his power. As he did for my brother Abel, he will give us justice." At the sound of that, Zos leaves to continue his search in the city until someone gives him some intel on the path that the family fled to, leading to the second coolest panel shot of this comic, with Zos mounting his behemoth and taking off behind them. Continuing the journey, Erg and John started flirting with each other, which angers Keenan, John's father, who lashes out at her saying, "Haven't you not learned to flirt with men who worship stones?" A question that angers John, speeding off on her horse to put some distance between her and her parents. A couple of miles later, John hops off the horse to just have a moment to think, telling Erg that the father was right, that from bitter experiences like the one they are in now, it's not wise for her to accept the advances of men who don't worship the god of Adam like Erg. John admits her feelings for Erg but declares they can't go forward with those feelings if Erg does not believe in the god of Adam, asking if he's willing to change his ways. But right before Erg can muster a response, a loud rumble comes from the nearby street, with Zos riding on the back of a behemoth charging into them. Erg and John immediately get back on their horse and attempt to escape. But Zos is right on the tracks, taking slashes at Erg, who even in his weakened state is able to fend off against him. But it may not be for long, so John in heat of the moment comes up with a plan. If the coordinates Seth gave them are correct, then they aren't too far away from the Garden of Eden. And if the old stories of Adam are true, they can definitely find some help there. A plan that Erg sees as being absurd, as the Garden of Eden is nothing more than a myth to him. However, with Zos gaining on them, he isn't in a position to really protest John's plan, which seems to backfire as the route that was supposed to lead them to the Garden of Eden actually led them right off a cliff, which both Erg and John as well as Zos go tumbling over. But when they recuperate themselves, even Zos is stunned at what stands before them, as it's none other than the guardian at the gate of the Garden of Eden. And with that, let's put Erg the Battler issue 3 on our Christian fiction judgment scale. For the story, this time around, it's a solid 4 to 5 in my opinion when it comes to our judgment scale. I think we all could have seen the Erg and John love interest from the last issue, and Keenan's disapproval of it is honestly justified, especially with all they have been through. I mean, they are literally on the run from John's Nephilim husband, who demands that she sacrifice their child to the gods in exchange for the gods' favor. Bitter experience is an understatement to what they're going through right now. But I really like John's character development in this issue. I skipped over a lot of the dialogue in my summary, especially the rooftop conversation, but seeing John expressing her guilt and acknowledging her part to play in all of it, no matter how small it was, that page was really well done. I also like how they continue to flesh out and integrate Seth into the story, as well as the quote-unquote myths of Adams and fairy tales, as Erg puts it. I wonder how much of a myth he thinks these old stories are, now that he is standing face to face with the guardian of the Garden of Eden. But we shall find out his stance in the final issue. When it comes to artwork and creativity, this issue gets a 3.5 out of 5 on our scale. While I got some of my favorite comic panel shots of this series in this issue, there were also comic panels that I had to do a double take on and zoom in order to really decipher what I was looking at. Especially the cliff-top chase, at least the way how it was drawn when I was first reading through it. I actually paused and then zoomed in to see what exactly was going on, especially when I came back to script the video. I was like, okay, hold on, let me make sure I get this straight. Did they fall off the cliff, or stop before they fall off the cliff, or they got teleported down, or into their separate area? The way how it was drawn, at least, was a bit confusing, which is why this issue gets a 3.5 out of 5. When it comes to theological basis, which refers to how well Christian principles are adapted in a piece of Christian fictional work, it's a 5 out of 5. Though it is of course extremely debatable on whether a Nephilim chased down people on dinosaur back to the gate of the Garden of Eden during the pre-flood world, and you are free to have that debate in the comments. I really like the direction Evan David has taken with the biblical aspects of the story, which I went into detail on in our second issue review on why I love the struggle to find people who worship and believe in the God of Adam premise that the series has taken to, especially with Bible verses that proclaim that the pre-flood period of the world is one of the most wicked periods. And I like how they continued to build upon that, especially with Erg's doubt and calling it all myths. Can he still call it a myth and made up stories given the circumstance he is in now? Well, we shall find out in the final issue. When it comes to my enjoyment and how likely I am to recommend it, it's a 5 out of 5. I've been loving the entire series so far. So overall, Erg the Battler issue 3 gets a 4.375, yes, we don't round up on the scale, out of 5 from the Xplanations. But do let me know what you think of the comic based on what was discussed in the comments below. Do you agree with me, or do you have a different take than I do? Link to purchase the comic will be in the description, as well as a link to Evan David's Patreon if you would like to support his awesome work. If you enjoyed the video, then why not consider leaving a like on it and subscribing for more reviews and coverage of comics made by professing believers. If you enjoyed the video to the point you want to check out another one on the channel, then be sure to click the card at the top right hand corner of your screen to check out our other The Erg the Battler reviews, or check out this story where another person who called everything relating to the Bible a myth witnessed an angel vaporize her kidnapper right before her eyes.